Hello, friends. Welcome to Spike Week. I'm Erik Beimfohr, and happy Week 1. It's here. We made it to Week 1. In just a couple of days, we're going to have some real NFL football. But first, we got to get caught up on the latest news and notes, the final wave of information that we need to take in to decide who we're drafting these last couple of days, who we're playing in our fantasy leagues in Week 1, who we're playing in DFS, who we're betting on, and all of that stuff. What do we do with this Jalen Coker injury? We're going to talk about that here on Spike Week, and we'll probably draft a team. Let's do it. This is hilarious. We still have the hour 36 of 36 banner on the screen. Shout out to Rob Coakley. If you missed it this weekend, our good friend Rob put in a 36-hour best ball stream where he drafted best ball teams for 36 straight hours. This is hour 36 of 36 of the Jalen Coker, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Chris Godwin, Juwan Jennings breakdown here at Spike Week. But no, shout out to Rob. I don't know if that's what I was gonna say. You can go rewatch that. I'm not sure though. There is a hilarious moment on Saturday night where Rob had a little bit of a rough patch autoing Brian Robinson, which was a fine pick, but then Joe Mixon and breaking his chair 12 hours into a 36-hour stream. And I also happened to be in that draft with him and got to benefit from all of the above. So that was a lot of fun. But shout out to Rob. Awesome stream this weekend. If you have not joined us here at Spike Week before, welcome. But also, if you can give us a thumbs up here on this video before we get going, hit that subscribe button, because starting tomorrow, we're in season mode. I'm still going to do some drafting, of course, the next 2 days, because we only got 2 more days to draft best ball teams, and that's what we ultimately do here at Spike Week. But we are also going to be diving into the DFS streets and the sports betting streets. And Rob and I actually a little later today are going to talk some Survivor strategy, and we're going to have you covered with all things in season as well. So not just best ball, but of course we're going to cover recap our best ball teams. How terrible do our bags look after week 1? How great, hopefully, do they look after week 1? We'll talk about that next week, but we're going to be doing some additional content here on the channel. So don't go anywhere. Just because best ball draft season is over doesn't mean we're going anywhere here at Spike Week. We are going to do a draft on drafters at the end of this show. And it does look like we're going to get some juicy overlay, whatever we want to call it. I'm gonna guess, as of this morning, the Drafters main event, which if you have not played yet on Drafters, of course, you can use code SPIKE for 100% deposit bonus. If you have played there, you can use code SPIKE reload 20 to get a 20% deposit bonus up to $200. And they're still giving away free tickets. If you participated in any of the free ticket giveaways that they've been having over the course of the last, really all summer, but of course of the last week or so, they're probably in your account right now. Mine are. And the tournament, the Drafters main event, which of course is $500,000 to first place with a $20 entry fee, is currently at 104,981 entries, 982 entries. And it needs to get to 140,004 to fill. So, I don't think we're going to get 40,000 entries in the next few days. Some people do have jobs and such, but we're going to be drafting there over the course of the next couple of days, and you still have time to pile into that contest while things like Best Ball Mania and such, DraftKings Millie, are filling. This one is not, and there's a bunch of free tickets to win, to achieve over there, not just to win. My brain is ruined from all the free tickets we gave away here during the summer, but just make sure to check out Drafters because that's where we're going to be focusing here for the next couple of days. Did you max the sprint and the marathon on Underdog? I did not play the sprint or the marathon. I know that those look like they're going to overlay, and maybe that is silly, but a huge reason why we're also playing on Drafters is not just because of the overlay. The overlay is excellent. It's great for us players, but it's also because I mean, we've gotten like 25 free tickets from all the different milestones that they have. And this weekend, if you drafted 30 teams this weekend, you got 5 for free. And, every time you hit 25, 50, 100, whatever teams, they give you some free tickets. They've had the streak in August, which I luckily achieved all 30 days to get 3 free tickets there. There's been so many promos that I just been focusing on there. And then of course I max BBM and DraftKings and dabbled in a bunch of other tournaments. That's hilarious. Yeah. Let's see. Let's get our GMs out of the way. GM Mac, ready to crush these last few drafts and sit back and watch the games. Marie, of course, Bernie, Jerry, Steven, Rob Coke, Lee. God bless everyone's BBM lineups. I like it. Need the season to start so I can stop cramming puppy drafts by muscle memory. Heard that. I'm not the puppy drafts, but it does feel like I'm just drafting very, very similar teams over and over. I have today when we hop in this draft here in a little bit after walking through the news and notes, it'll be my 128th drafters team. So it's a grind. We still got 23 more to go, but it's a grind. Let's see. Morning Al. Yeah, it really was. Rob may still be sleeping, but amazing accomplishment for sure. GM to everyone. This is true. We'll be grinding out some pick'em slips as well during the season. All right, enough filibustering, enough. We're just excited, right? We're excited for week 1. We're excited about our remaining drafts. We're excited about some of these particular news items, but we got to get into them so we can get to this draft in a little bit. Obviously, a much shorter version of this show. We're not going to be going team by team. There is not necessarily news and notes from a fantasy football perspective for every single team. To no one's surprise, absolutely nothing out of the Arizona Cardinals. I'm still not even entirely sure that they've practiced in the last month because we never hear anything about the Arizona Cardinals. But a handful of different news items that we'll touch on here. Again, certainly relevant for our best ball drafts, also relevant for sit decisions and DFS lineups. A couple pretty sneaky ones, I think, in that regard. But the first one we got to talk about, of course, which broke on Saturday, like kind of during Rob's 36-hour marathon stream. Jalen Coker, of course, the Carolina Panthers trade away Adam Thielen. And part of that, maybe a huge piece of that, was because of Jalen Coker. Of course, they drafted Teteroa McMillan in the top 10. They love him. They seem to also love Xavier Legette, who they drafted in the first round, at the end of the first round last year. But they also love Jalen Coker, and Jalen Coker was specifically the one that was going to be moving into the slot after Adam Thielen had left. They cut Hunter Renfrow, and so it was pretty much wheels up, I think, for all of these Panthers guys, Jatavian Sanders as well. Then Jalen Coker in practice suffers what they've called a significant quad strain. He's been placed on injured reserve, of course, designated. He's not out for the season, but they did say he's going to miss some real time. 4 to 6 weeks has been what has been out there. I am not a doctor, and I'm not sure that anyone can say confidently that the Carolina Panthers are not necessarily saying a super set timeline, but it's a significant injury. So we will see. We're hoping for just the minimum 4 weeks on injured reserve. That would be great. Obviously, that our Coker teams, there's nothing we can do about them once we've drafted him, but our Coker teams can survive, the first month or so if he comes back and he's fully healthy. But I do think it's a fairly significant upgrade, and I updated, if you are a Spike Week subscriber, hopefully this is the last rankings update for 2025 best ball season. But you never know, we could get some injuries or something in practice over the course of the next couple of days. I updated the rankings this morning. And I think, certainly in formats like drafters, which we're going to be drafting on, if you are getting into the marathon, but also I think in the playoff formats, DraftKings, etc., it's a pretty significant boost to Xavier Legette and Jatavian Sanders. It's a stabilizer for Teteroa McMillan, but we're just losing a bunch of target earners on this offense. I'm not so sure that it's good for Bryce Young, but it's pretty good for Xavier Legette and Jatavian Sanders. Just a month plus of a lot more consolidated target tree. We know that the Panthers are probably not going to be a great football team. The defense is still not great, and that means you're probably playing from behind a good amount, which means a lot of passing. And if there's really only a few guys who can earn targets in the offense, now these guys are not the Eagles, but it feels a little bit condensed in that way, right? Where it's A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and then kind of scraps for everyone else, the non-running backs, but also really the running backs too. Now, Bryce Young will certainly check down more than Jalen Hurts. But, like I said, these guys are not those levels of players. But from a target share perspective, while Jaylen Coker is out, Jimmy Horn, I don't think Jimmy Horn made the initial 53, right? But anyway, Jimmy Horn's probably going to have to play, and they did re-sign Hunter Renfrow. But I don't think that those guys are like going to come in and steal a whole mess of targets away from specifically T-Mac, Legette, and Jatavian Sanders. Like I said, a sneaky part that I think is not getting viewed in the same way as like a Legette is in terms of the benefit from the loss of Jalen Coker. The other thing about this is when guys get hurt, especially right before the season. Thank you, Martin. When guys get hurt right before the season, it can be tricky where I'm not saying who knows, maybe Jalen Coker is back in week 5 and he's completely 100% healthy and he never has a lingering issue, but he's had some health issues already in his young career. There's been kind of reports about Carolina wasn't super happy with him and his fitness levels and all this different kind of stuff. And so it's just another thing, it's like, it's not, again, not apples to apples here, right? But like Marshawn, when you get hurt, you're more likely to get hurt again. That's, again, I'm not a doctor, but that's just generally how the body works. When you try to make up, when you have wear and tear and your body's trying to make up for injuries and all that kind of stuff, it's just a higher level of concern for Jalen Coker the rest of the way. This isn't a game of Madden where you come back from injury and you're 100% and it's like that injury never happened again. It's a real life human body playing very, very violent sport. So just a small level of extra concern, and we'll see what happens there. But an overall really nice boost, I think, for Legette and Jatavian Sanders, probably not so much for Bryce Young. Yeah, it's a good shout. I have my DraftKings app up in front of me here. I'm in not very many slows left, and I made sure to get the queue and rankings and everything in there so I don't really screw this up. But if I filibuster some more to make some slow draft picks on DraftKings.com, that's it. But anyway, there's kind of the Jalen Coker situation. I moved down Jalen Coker a bunch in all formats, and I moved up Xavier Legette and Jatavian Sanders. I'm not drafting Jimmy Horn. You could draft him in the weeks 1 to 4 contest, but I'm done with all of those drafts, and I imagine most people are as well with the slow draft clocks winding down. All right, Chris Godwin, I think is probably the next most notable one here because similar to like Rashee Rice, the roller coaster that was the Chris Godwin offseason continues roller coastering. So this was not a coach. This was not a his position coach. This was not it, but it is the general manager, Jason Licht, who came out and said this weekend, I believe, that Chris Godwin will be miss at least he says the first month of the season. And what I don't understand is that is certainly possible, right? It's absolutely possible, but it doesn't pass the smell test, right? I'm a big fan of kind of just the comments where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Smell test, the mom test. if you said it to your mom who doesn't follow this silly game that we play and she couldn't understand it, it's probably not simple enough. It probably doesn't make much sense. And that's how this feels. Why specifically would you not place him on injured reserve if he was going to miss at least the first month of the season? Your expectation going in is that he's going to miss for sure 4 weeks. That is what the injured reserve is for, sir. Now you're going to waste a roster spot for 4+ weeks on this guy this makes it sound very bleak for Chris Godwin. Again, it's one quote. It doesn't mean it's true. It could really mean, like, is he counting this week leading up to? I don't know. I don't really know what the Bucs GM meant. I can't read his intent in the quote. I didn't hear the quote. I just read it. But it's bizarre. It's a very, very bizarre thing to hear from, given everything else we've heard, right? He passed his physical. He's ramping back up. They're like, targeting like a late September, return or whatever. That's very different from what we're hearing here. So just something, of course, to consider with Chris Godwin. I did move him down on this news in the rankings. I'm not saying that you need to move him down in your rankings, but it's just a weird deal. The Tampa Bay Bucs did say, however, which is a very positive for the rest of the Bucs, is that Tristan Wirfs, their superstar left tackle, will be back sooner than Chris Godwin. So it sounds like Tristan Wirfs is doing quite well in his rehab. He's obviously not going to be out there for week 1, but he's very important to the Bucs offense. And so with the Wirfs coming back, wheels up for Abuka and Evans and Bucky and obviously Baker once Wirfs gets back in there. Deciphering this coach speak for injuries feels like we're playing Survivor and they're lying to our face. Yeah, it's just insane. I don't understand. We'll get to John Harbaugh in a minute. I don't really understand what these guys are gaining from all this nonsense. Like, when 1 week they're telling us something about Godwin, really, really positive, and then the next week they're saying at a minimum he's going to miss the first month. And maybe it is, maybe that's new information that they learned, but like, put him on injured reserve. I don't really get it. So we'll see. It remains to be seen with Chris Godwin. Who knows? I don't think anybody has any idea, not even the Bucs general manager. Some more positive news. A lot of guys back at practice this week that if you were buying the dips on, I believe Josh Downs should also be back at practice. I didn't put him on here, and I apologize for that. But Darnell Mooney, and I put a walkthrough because I'm not writing jog through. That's very fucking stupid. It's a walkthrough. But Darnell Mooney participated in the Falcons jog through yesterday. So they will start ramping up over the course of the week. They called him day to day, but obviously we didn't get a lot of great updates. We didn't get a lot of updates, period, from Darnell Mooney over the course of the last month since he hurt his shoulder. It was generally positive, but no real timeline. This does not mean he'll play week 1, but this gives him a chance to play week 1. And I would assume that if he's back practicing this week, at least week 2 feels good for Darnell Mooney. Juwan Jennings feels very similar. Weird updates. Kyle Shanahan is the weirdest coach ever from I guess him and his coaching tree, Mike McDaniel. But, he keeps saying that Juwan was going to be back, but he kept putting caveats on there, and he did request a trade, and then he didn't, and then he did. But Juwan Jennings was back at practice yesterday, and if you bought that dip, I think you're feeling pretty good there. Juwan is someone I'm targeting specifically in my drafts right now, as well as Darnell Mooney. Both of them, I think, are great buys. Like, they may miss absolutely zero time, and they've been plummeting because we didn't understand really everything that's going on with their health, and it seems their health is fine. So it could have been just an absolutely useless fall and wrong fall for these guys. Another guy who has fallen a little bit, but not quite the same level, Marvin Mims, also back at practice yesterday. So again, not saying you need to draft Marvin Mims, but if these guys were targets for you and they continue to fall in your rooms because they have things like Q tags on DraftKings, scoop it up, because the Q tag is kind of BS. It is they're technically probably questionable for week 1, but I think that the fall, right, this is a 17-week game. I think that the fall has probably been a little bit exaggerated on these guys now, given the fact that we know that they're back in practice. BBM is currently at 94%. When would you guess it'll fill? Yeah, I think I would agree with Martin tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. I would not wait on these tournaments. I don't know where DraftKings is at on their Millie Maker. I know people tend to speculate sometimes about like, oh man, the Millie Maker needs 65,000 entries in the DK Millie Maker. That's going to happen fast. So I would not wait till Thursday and thinking, if you're trying to drafters, you're going to be safe. It's not going to fill. So if you need to do some drafts on Thursday, drafters is going to be your spot. There will be other tournaments, right, still available, the marathon, the sprint. But if you're trying to get into Best Ball Mania on Underdog or the DraftKings Millie Maker, I would not wait on those two. Yeah, DK Mayfield last minute. I'm not sure it even gets to the last minute. That they do insane numbers per day in the last week or so on DraftKings. So we'll see. Overlay in the 555 asks massive audio. It needs 1,700 more entries. It's possible, but I would be surprised. That thing generally doesn't. Last year it filled like over this past weekend, like on Saturday, I think, like Saturday morning last year, if I recall. So it's hanging on a little bit longer. I would still be surprised. I think you see some of the like whales pile into those tournaments at the end, auto draft a bunch of teams because they don't really care. Must be nice, how rich, but we'll see. So speaking of, football starts in a couple of days. The game that kicks off the season is, of course, Cowboys-Eagles this coming Thursday night. And if you were concerned about some of the guys who have been banged up on either of those teams, basically no one of relevance to us is on the injury report. AJ Brown has, not been practicing a ton over the course of the last month. Devontae Smith a little bit as well. Miles Sanders and Jaden Blue have been banged up, not on the injury report for Thursday. So wheels up on all parties. If you were concerned about anybody on the Cowboys or the Eagles, don't be, because the opening injury report, they are good to go. I mentioned John Harbaugh earlier and like how weird he's being, and he's definitely being weird. He's playing it super cool. He's playing it super cool. He made a specific point to say like there's no real reason for him to like talk about all of these injured guys. And he like even said like specifically about Isaiah Likely, like that's a guy I'm just not going to share any information on. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Like they play the Bills. It's a big game. They don't want to give away information to the Bills, but like, the Bills understand, like they've played the Ravens before. They understand the 2 tight end stuff versus 1 tight end stuff. They're still going to play 2 tight ends, even if Isaiah Likely doesn't play. And like Isaiah Likely is a good football player. This isn't like Lamar. Like, it's not like Lamar, Derrick Henry aren't playing. It's like a timeshare tight end. It's just the gamesmanship stuff from these coaches is out of control. And so it seems as though Isaiah Likely is not going to play this week. That would be my expectation, and kind of all this bullshit that Harbaugh is doing to make it seem like he might play. Given what they've said over the course of the summer, I don't expect it, but whatever. Another situation, I just want to call out because we've talked about it a bunch this summer, rightfully so, but a Washington Commanders beat writer put out like an article, like what to expect from the backfield this year. And he talked about how he expects a committee. He expects, Bill, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, aka JCM, to be a factor and play. And I think we all do. But he actually expects, like who's going to get the first carry, who probably gets the most carries in week 1. He expects Chris Rodriguez. And I think I don't really get the pushback on the fact that this is a possibility from anyone. Jacory Carski-Merritt can be an awesome pick in these drafts. And we can like him more than Chris Rodriguez. We can be excited about the young rookie who they've been hyping up all summer. Of course we can. But it also doesn't mean that he's guaranteed to get the first touch of week 1. A lot of indications have shown us that, maybe Chris Rodriguez is the guy that gets the first touch in week 1. And now guys who have been at practice, guys who are following this team for a living are saying, I kind of think Chris Rodriguez is going to lead the backfield to start. Doesn't mean he holds on to that job, but it also doesn't mean that this is like some obscene take. And you see like people that are so anchored in their takes about Bill or about certain backfields just being like, oh, you're an idiot. Is this just your guess? And it's like, well, yeah, but he's like following this. If you think he's wrong, that's also just your guess. It's like, it's such a wild situation. If I had to bet, if I were a betting man, that would be my bet as well, is that like who gets the first carry? Chris Rodriguez. Who gets a little more work in week 1? Is it possible that Bill is even a game day inactive in week 1? It's technically possible. Jeremy McNichols is a key part of their special teams play. And so he's going to be active on game days. And we obviously know Austin Eckler is. I fully suspect that they just dress all 4 running backs is my expectation, but it's not impossible that they only dress 3 and they are like, let's Devon Achane. For anybody that doesn't remember, this is another thing that like, it's not that big of a deal. And sometimes rookies get brought along early. Achane is like a 2nd round pick for consecutive years in fantasy football. We know he's awesome. And the week 1 game in his rookie season for the Dolphins, he was inactive. It happens. We shouldn't treat it like something that's absolutely crazy. And I haven't put it on here because it's not really relevant. Like Bashal Tutin might be inactive. It's like these things happen. It also doesn't mean that they're bad picks. Because like I said, Devon Achane, one of the best picks on the board, one of the best picks in recent fantasy history in his rookie season, was inactive of week 1 of his rookie season. Like it happens. So anyway, what if the Commanders suck? I mean, it's possible, but I think it's really hard to suck when Jaden Daniels is your quarterback. It's like Lamar. He's not Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, etc. just yet, but he ain't far off. He's that good. I think it's really hard when you have superstar quarterback play. I think it's really hard to suck. It may not be as good as they were, but I think it's really hard to suck. So, assuming health, right? If they suck would probably be if Jaden Daniels gets hurt, to me. Just as I'm sure everyone is waiting on pins and needles over Quinshon Judkins. Still no updates. Nothing from the Browns. Nothing from anyone. Nothing from Quinshon Judkins. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I don't know, man. Dylan Sampson is, I think, going to be the Cleveland Browns starting running back for the foreseeable future. And he's still pretty free in drafts. If you would like to get some early season production while also drafting a fun, exciting young rookie, Joe Flacco is the quarterback. He has a good offensive mind, a good offensive like infrastructure from Stefanski on down. I don't know. Somebody wake me up. Like what is happening? When is Dylan Sampson going to rise to appropriate levels? I don't know. Should I drop anyone for Dylan Sampson or Ollie Gordon? Well, it depends on who you have on your team, but I would recommend it if you have droppable players. Dylan Sampson is my number 1 target in all of drafts, no matter the site, format, or anything. For I don't care. Managed leagues, dynasty leagues, best ball drafts, cumulative scoring, BBM, whatever. Dylan Sampson has been my number 1 priority pick, like in all of it. I just think the price is wrong. Liam Cohen, speaking of prices wrong, bitch. Travis Hunter is either going to be woefully underpriced or woefully overpriced, and Liam Cohen doesn't even really know what he thinks is going to be the case as of yet. he was asked about Travis Hunter, like how is he going to start on both sides of the football? Kind of what's the plans for Travis Hunter for week 1? And he says, we are still working through it right now. He obviously missed a lot of time recently that can impact playing anybody, much less a rookie. What that usage looks like, we're still working through. So I'm not concerned about Travis Hunter. In like best ball picks, the ceiling still exists, but you're seeing the issues with a player who we are drafting for only offensive production and the team drafted for offense and defensive production. There's murkiness and there's injury concerns. I've been saying since February that my biggest concern with Travis Hunter is not the fact that he can't play both ways. It is not the fact that the team won't try to play him both ways. It is the fact that he is not a really big fella and playing 100 and however many snaps while tackling guys and then getting tackled on the other side of the football is hard. There's a reason not a lot of people do it. It's not that there aren't people that are physically capable. Charles Woodson won the Heisman playing both sides, right? There's definitely the Devin Hesters of the world or whatever. It's physically taxing on the body, and you are now more susceptible to injuries, and he already got hurt in camp. So I think to shield him from that, they may, restrict some of his role, at least in the early going. We'll see. But Liam Cohen just kind of solidifying sort of the potential issues. And if you're going to, I was like actually somewhat intrigued by Travis Hunter from a DFS perspective in week 1. And maybe I still will be if he's absolutely low enough owned. But I just don't. I think there's too many good plays in week 1 that I don't feel the need to play Travis Hunter given kind of this information. He did also say if you can get Brian Thomas like first quarter catches or some shit, he mentioned how Brian Thomas is the kind of weapon you want to get the ball to early, like get him going, get him into the rhythm. So I think you're going to see like a, whenever they script their first X amount of plays, there's going to be some manufactured touches for Brian Thomas in the early goings. So there you go. There's some EV for you. I'd take Samson in a bar fight tomorrow. Amen to that. Sounds like Judkins is signing soon. I mean, it could be, but I haven't heard anything, and the Browns aren't saying anything, and no one is really saying anything. There was like a fake report that came out that he was close to, but that was like a week and a half ago. Somebody came out with a report. It was like he was like he's going to sign tomorrow, and then fast forward a week and he's still not signed. It was not real. Doesn't mean like I said, he could legitimately sign while we're talking here today. It's absolutely possible, but there's been no real actual updates from anyone of significance. It was some like random Twitter account a couple weeks ago that said Judkins is signing soon, and then he did not sign soon at all. So we'll see. He hasn't practiced football in months, and if he's a rookie, right? Liam Cohen just talked about Travis Hunter and the concerns of missing time as a rookie, and Quinshon Judkins has missed all of training camp of his rookie season. So we may be getting a little bit of a red shirt season for old Judkins. Sorry, these frickin' DraftKings slow clocks are killing me. And Pi says he hasn't practiced with the team at all, and isn't he still subject to suspension? Yeah, that's why they haven't signed him, is because the NFL investigation is playing itself out, and they are kind of waiting to see what happens with that whole deal. And it doesn't sound like we're getting resolution on that in the next couple of days. And so this could bleed on into the season for sure. Judkins, who has still not yet signed his rookie deal with the Browns, could be back with the team as early as next week in advance of it could be, sure. This is not, yeah, he could. I agree. But that's not progress. That doesn't that's just everybody saying something that could happen. We all know it could. Some things could happen, but people have been saying it could happen for months. But yeah, even if he gets back this week, I don't know. My opinion hasn't changed. I think just draft Dylan Sampson. Every time you think about drafting Quinshon Judkins, just draft the guy who's the starter. He's also a rookie. All of the perks of drafting Quinshon Judkins exist for Dylan Sampson, right? Rookie, upside, the team's going to play the young guy. Like, that's Dylan Sampson as well. And one guy didn't miss the entire summer of training camp. And one guy also is not going to get suspended. So you're going to miss all of camp, and then you're probably going to miss a month or something of the season from a suspension. Yeah. Enjoy your tips and insights, but your rambling gets to me. Focus and get to the point and move on to the next news point. Just giving you shit. Yeah. Welcome to Spike Week. I am who I am. You're going to get the rambles. I apologize. I don't actually apologize. It is what we do around here. Let's see. There was a couple of, if you get boxed out at quarterback, who do you take from the miserable bottom feeder tier? Maybe take two of Rich, Flacco, Russ. I would rather bet on Russ and Flacco just maintaining the job. They have it right now. And there are signs of life from both teams that they could actually win some games. I know the schedule is really tough for the Giants. They have signs of life on both sides that I kind of think the Giants are going to be better than people think. I'm not sure it translates to wins. But between Flacco and Russ, I have some like somewhat proven commodities that are actually for sure going to start some games. I can at least then just say, well, let's hope that, maybe the Browns win some games and Flacco continues to remain the starter. Maybe the Giants are more competitive than we think, as opposed to like praying Anthony Richardson somehow becomes good and takes the job back from Daniel. I think Rich is probably next up for me, and then Rattler. But I know Shador, Shador is behind Gabriel. Gabriel's the quarterback too. So that's what it would be for me. Let's see. What about Dimes? The starter has a 22-yard rushing prop. Yeah, now check the passing props. But he's fine. It's okay. I just prefer Flacco and Russ for me personally. But I got no problem with Daniel Jones. But he does go ahead of those guys by quite a lot, I think, actually. So if we move past Daniel Jones, that's when I would get into these other guys. Yeah, Brandon is here with the season-long questions again. Trade away Ibuka and Pacheco to get Hampton? I don't think so. Probably not. Let's see here. I would because I didn't read the full team. It's very difficult to make to read like full teams and make those decisions like in the moment. This is how you get the rants that folks don't like, is like, here's my team of all 12 guys, and then can you tell me who to start or should I make this trade? It's very difficult to do like in real time on the spot. All right, back to the news. Jalen Royals, our guy Jalen Royals, probably not that relevant to a lot of people. I think we're the Jalen Royals slappies here. But of course, Rashee Rice is out for the first 6 weeks. And we had kind of hoped that during that time, maybe Jalen Royals could get out there and prove himself a little bit and earn a role, right? Outperform Hollywood or outperform Tyquan Thornton, outperform Juju Smith-Schuster, and earn a role that continues even when Rashee Rice comes back. But he's going to miss week 1. We'll see about week 2. I shouldn't say he's going to. They're basically indicating he's going to miss week 1. It's not an absolute guarantee as of yesterday, I think it was. But they all signs are pointing to Jalen Royals missing week 1, which is unfortunate. It's not over. I think he's actually becoming like one of the better 20th round picks in a landscape where last round picks, like we'll get to it on drafters here in a few minutes when we pop into draft, the 20th round is bleak. And so I think you can still draft a guy like that back there. The guys we're taking are not very good in the 20th rounds. DraftKings is a little bit different, but it does still get a little thin back there in some of your drafts. Speaking of a guy who's available in the super late rounds now, Quinton Johnston has cleared concussion protocol. So I'm a little aren't you worried about QJ? Yes, I am worried about QJ, but not because of the concussion. He should be good to go for week 1. More so worried about him because they drafted 2 rookies and signed Keenan Allen. So let's see. Are you Corum or Hunter now? I have quasi flip-flopped a little bit, but I'm sticking to the Jarquez Hunter thing. I think if there's a guy who really truly steals work from Kyren, which is still not my expectation, and also can like take a job and run with it. I don't mean like take Kyren's job. He's not doing that. But like be a real factor, either without an injury or certainly if we get the Kyren injury. I still believe that it's Jarquez Hunter. I think he was a little better prospect than Blake Corum. I think he's more explosive. They've indicated that he's been more explosive over the course of the summer and provides something that Corum and Kyren do not. And so I think that, him being a little bit of a different beast sets him apart, and I would still prefer Jarquez Hunter. And he has fallen again. He's also fallen to the later rounds. It's oftentimes the last round, or 2. And again, it has dried up quite significantly back there. So I think Jarquez Hunter is a pretty good pick as well. And if Kyren goes down, they're both going to play, I think. But I would rather bet on Hunter, like kind of outperforming Corum if something happens to Kyren. Najee Harris is back at practice. And Najee said he wants to play or expects to play. I forget the verbiage that he used. Najee thinks he's going to play. Of course, Najee is being very optimistic. Harbaugh and the Chargers are saying it's possible. They're saying he looks good, and they're excited about him. But the Chargers are fucking excited about everybody all the time. They don't stop glazing their players. I don't see why it would stop with Najee Harris. The first time that the Chargers actually say something negative about one of their players will be the next time that happens will be the first time. So I always have to take kind of some stuff with a grain of salt there. I think it's probably about a coin flip for Najee in week 1 would be my guess. Maybe a little bit more likely than a coin flip, but we're still only talking about like a week and a half of practice before your first game. That seems less than ideal. Who is not questionable heading into week 1? Matthew Stafford. All the hullabaloo over the course of the last couple months of Matthew Stafford and his back. I think he still has a significant risk over the course of the season, but not for week 1. Sean McVay confirmed that Matthew Stafford is going to start week 1. Devon Achane also, they do always continue to say with Achane, assuming there's no setback, which is like, no shit, man. I guess you have to say it because people will call you a liar if you don't put all these caveats on there. But Achane good to go for week 1. Also just funny / notable for the Miami Dolphins. It really is meaningless, but I thought it was pretty funny that it came out. The Dolphins named their team captains. And for the first time since he has been a Miami Dolphin, Tyreek Hill is not a team captain. Tua, Alec Ingold, and a defensive player are the captains for the Dolphins. I don't think it matters. Who cares? But it is just another really funny, like vibes-based issue for the Miami Dolphins, and specifically for Tyreek Hill. Not a lot of positives have been happening for the Dolphins, but also for Tyreek Hill over the course of really in a long time. But it's a real shame. Couldn't happen to a better guy. The Vikings are also in another surprise turn of events. For the last month, the Vikings have been last few weeks, the Vikings have been telling us that Jalen Nailor is probably not going to play week 1, like almost assuredly. They were very confident that Jalen Nailor wouldn't be ready for week 1. That was part of the Adam Thielen trade. Was they needed bodies for the start of the season, and now they just came out and said they're optimistic over the weekend, the holiday weekend, that they're optimistic for Jalen Nailor for week 1. So he's clearly had a nice recovery and should be good to go. That is it for the old news and notes section. Let's get on into a draft here over on drafters.com. Again, you can use code SPIKE. Let's hop in the draft first, because I know you guys are going to come in there, and then you can see me make a slow draft pick. I'm almost out of slow draft hell over here. It's not quite as pleasant on DraftKings at the moment. Nice. One more. A reminder for anybody that is in DraftKings slow drafts. 10-minute. We're down to 10-minute clocks. So good luck. What the hell just happened? All right, let's see. Oh, nice. We can close out another one here on drafters. Hampton, Henderson. See, look at this. The Triple H has become the HHS. H's. Dylan Sampson, another rookie running back. That's a key to teams for me right now. Got the queue loaded up with wide receivers. Just check some exposures here quickly. Oof, that's bad. Oh, no. Let's do Jalen Lane on this one. We have Debo. Don't have Jaden Daniels, but we have Debo on the team, so just build another little secondary correlation there. Boutte getting love recently. Yep, I've been drafting a bunch of him. Let's see what I'm up to on Kayshon Boutte. I am 9% Kayshon Boutte on drafters. Probably even a little bit more on DraftKings. I've been taking quite a bit of Kayshon Boutte. I'm with you. This is hilarious. Shout out. This is what I love. You guys, boots on the freaking ground. Massive Audio says, Buddy went to Finn's training camp and said, weird vibe all around. Tyreek was standing by himself to the side. Let's do Gibbs. I've been doing, you guys have probably seen in some of the drafts, especially down the home stretch here. We talked about a lot of those guys, like from a value perspective. There's just so many guys at the receiver and even tight end position. And then there's quarterbacks littered all throughout the draft. I'm taking a little bit more early running back right now because of what I perceive to be available later in the drafts, right? If we constantly talk about the back to front drafting and stuff in like from a best ball strategy perspective. Well, when it presents itself and there's a lot, there's Xavier Legette and there's Isaac Tesla and there's El Gallo Manor and there's Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant and still De'Ami Brown and Torrey Horton. Can't forget Torrey Horton and Kayshon Boutte and all these different guys that I like it. Jatavian Sanders and Harold Fannin and all these late options. And it's a lot of wide receivers. Well, if you don't have a lot of running backs you like late, now maybe it's a time to invest a little bit more. Get done with your running backs a little bit earlier than you normally would. So I've been doing it, even though I'm a 0 RB bro at heart. There's also still, like we talked about, some of these, ADP fallers, Josh Downs, Darnell Mooney, Juwan Jennings, Chris Godwin was potentially going to be maybe one, and now not so much. I'm not really buying the Jaden Reed dip. There's just other, but if you want to do Jaden Reed, there's a lot of guys that have fallen from an ADP perspective. Chris Olave is at a really advantageous price. There's a lot of those guys, so you can kind of use those to your advantage and get a Gibbs or get a couple of earlier running backs. Get your Hamptons and Hendersons and Harveys, and if you like Connor or Ken Walker or whoever, you can get some of those guys, and you're still going to have wide receivers kind of littered throughout the draft, and then dip in and out of quarterback whenever you need to from a stacking perspective or from a let's not get boxed out perspective. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll do Bucky, I guess. Little running back. Ladd goes, Jacobs goes. Tuna is in the right next to me in the 105, draft number 150. Congratulations, ASAP Tuna. Must be a fun feeling. I can't wait to get there. I'm happy for you. Mainly because I'm very jealous. Sounds very fun to be at the end of this draft marathon. No pun intended. Let me think about this here. Josh Allen would definitely be fun. We could do Hampton. JSN goes. I've done Mike Evans. You see here, I've definitely done Mike Evans on this kind of a team. I've done Travion. I haven't done Hampton. I haven't done Josh Allen. Let's do a full-blown robust start, huh? Take a whole mess of wide receivers on this team. We'll show the running back bros how it's really done, how you really draft one of these teams, not the robust teams that they draft. I would imagine that most of the robust bros will hate this team that I draft here, but nonetheless. One thing I've noticed in drafts, wide receivers feel so much more plentiful late than running backs, so it feels safer to take early and middle round running backs. The running back pool just feels so thin after the past month of news. Yeah, the majority of the like super late guys have risen up, right? Braylon Allen's going like in the early 100s now. Ollie Gordon, we still have our like Shipleys and Keatons and stuff that we like around here in the Spike Week community, but still it's a smaller crop of later guys. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt and even Chris Rodriguez. I think Chris Rodriguez is a great pick, but he's still not free in drafts. But late at the wide receiver position and at the tight end position also, it's a little bit different. So I'm with you. Finns definitely feel bad. Everyone is waiting for Tyree to get traded to it, to get hurt, and coach to be fired. That is a great synopsis, and it's exactly how gross it is. That's exactly what everyone is feeling. I don't know how anyone can feel good about it, but the flip side of that is, what if all this is not like, because it's all just speculating on the coach getting fired thing is not just pure speculation, but it is like the betting markets agree a lot, any like projection systems that, there's math and logic and stuff behind it too, not just vibes. But it is just a lot of kind of us sort of dreaming up this thing. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It definitely doesn't mean it's misguided, but it does mean that, damn it, I love JMO, but I take him so much on these teams. How about a DJ Moore team? Try to look at a Bears stack or something here. Let's do just over here, ripping some freaking DraftKings picks. Don't mind me. I accidentally clicked on Jaden Daniels last night instead of JT or Chase Brown, and both of them got drafted after and ended up with James Cook and Hurtsborough were still available in the third round. Yeah. I notably accidentally auto-drafted Darren Waller in a $555 draft on DraftKings on a stream, nonetheless. So I feel your pain. It happens to the best of us. That one still hurts me. That one wound that was tis but a flesh wound. That was not just a flesh wound for me on the Waller pick. It was painful. Tuna with the old AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts stack in number 150. Jealous. Waller reported. Yeah, I didn't mention Darren Waller. They think he's going to play some kind of role. I forget what the verbiage was that Mike McDaniel mentioned. Do I take? Let's do Devontae. But Waller, they mentioned that. Yeah, exactly. Straight running back, bro. I told him we're going to show the running back bros how to draft the running back team. Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, Amari, and Hampton to start. You crushed his dreams. I don't even think that the Eagles double is like, it's definitely fun. It's fun to click, but I'm not sure. I love Hurts is one of my highest owned, if not my highest owned quarterback. I love him, but I'm not sure that the Hurts doubles. At least, like, if you want to include Goddard, sure. I think the Hurts doubles are fine. I have some in my portfolio, of course, but I don't think that it's like my absolute fit. This tier of like either remove AJ Brown and like I think you might want Bowers or McBride or Ladd or Bucky or Chase Brown or Jonathan Taylor or something like that. You might want those guys, and then it's just really hard to see the double at such an expensive price. Like, I know we want more passing volume. I've been preaching passing volume and the consolidation of the targets amongst these guys, and that's great. It's just 3 picks in the first 5 rounds can get a little bit sticky from it puts you in it boxes you into some really needing, right? And like Tuna had Barkley and AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, and if he was also going to take Devontae Smith, that's 4 of your first 5 picks on one Eagles offense. I think it's really hard to win, especially a total points format with 4 of your first 5 picks on the same offense. Did you pass on Ibuka specifically because you have Irving? No, I have. I do like Bucky kind of. I'm happy to have Bucky in Buck stacks and for sure, but I had taken more Ibuka with Bucky with this start than I have Devontae Smith, and I really love Devontae Smith too. This is the spot that 5th round, specific like the 4th, 5th round, is specifically where I do a lot of kind of like smoothing out of exposures. I dabble in some of the guys that I don't really like, Calvin Ridley, Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, like in this draft. Those are not my favorite picks amongst this group, but I do kind of respect the whole tier as draftable, high upside, or high floor for Sutton and Ridley options that I'm not being like super stubborn about. And so, I mean, I'm taking a lot more of Devontae and Zay and JMO and stuff, but I'm kind of smoothing out how I deploy those guys alongside the other early round picks. Let's do Olave. Franklin over Bryant. I prefer Troy Franklin, but it's close. In their final preseason game after Devon Vele got traded, the starting wide receivers were Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and Troy Franklin, and Pat Bryant backed up Cortland Sutton. That doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. And of course, Marvin Mims did get banged up in practice, though he's back at practice. But I would guess that their first snap of 11 personnel or whatever for the Broncos is with Troy Franklin and not Pat Bryant. And the Evan Ingram usage in the preseason was quite concerning. A lot of Adam Troutman. Sean Payton loves him some Adam Troutman, and so Troy Franklin has been my priority target amongst all of those guys in that receiver room. So we'll do Keon here through 7 rounds. We start with the running back robust start of Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, Amari, and Hampton through 3 rounds. And then we come back for DJ Moore, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, and Keon Coleman. A little bit of upside swings, a little bit of floor, a little bit of this, a little bit of that amongst the wide receiver room. Just trying to dig out of this, of course, hole I dug for myself in the first 3 rounds with nothing but running backs. Crushed his dreams, but saved his life. You are the Dark Knight. That is hilarious. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. That's good. That's good. Let's see here. Yeah, these 10-minute clocks are less than ideal. Certainly less than ideal to be trying to do a draft and talk here. That's the other thing. I do actually apologize. I was being an asshole. I do, of course, apologize for ranting and rambling too much, but it is also just my personality. But also sometimes we got to pull the straight filibuster because I'm on the clock in 3 DraftKings drafts, and there's 10 minutes on the clock. Stupid DraftKings. It is pro tip for next year: get your DraftKings slows done before the Tuesday of week 1. Because the 10-minute clocks are not fun. Not a lot of fun. Yet this is so much draft capital to try and have both smash in the same game. And of course you don't need all of your early picks to always smash in the same games, right? And you can have the ping pong effect. AJ Brown has a big week, and then Devontae has a big week, and maybe occasionally they both have good games together. But then, like, you toss Saquon in there, it's just very difficult for them to outscore all the other guys. Like, even the ping ponging stuff, other people are going to have that too, without betting entirely on the Eagles. I'm just a big proponent, personally, of not over investing in any one individual offense at the top. So that's what people will scare the shit out of me. People will hold on. Here comes the howling. Here comes the howling. We talk about overstacking and the dogs go crazy. I have no idea what's going on. Hey, zip it. Okay. Okay, we do not want to auto a running back here. Let's see. Wide receiver. Oh, let's do the Mooney thing. 1 second. Good Lord. I don't know what the hell is going on around here. Now I'm rattled. So we have right across the street, what happens all the time. Yes, they did have something to say. What does happen quite frequently and has already happened this morning, arguing. We have this really small little yippy yappy dog across the street at the neighbors. That look, my neighbor, that specific neighbor is very nice, great guy. However, he leaves his dog out in his backyard, and that dog just, incessant. And it's a little yappy dog, right? Just absolutely endless yipping and yapping. And it's like, and then these guys get all riled up from that dog just for literally an hour in a row, just yipping. painful. See, the one thing I hate about these bear stacks is every time I try to put these bear stacks together, I have to force Caleb into, I don't really want to take Caleb over all these guys, but I also know that what we like to call the red frickin' wedding is coming here. And I don't really have anybody that I love, like I have to smash at this pick. So let's just do Caleb. I've just been a little light on the bear stacks, and I feel like that's something I may end up regretting. We'll see. I mean, the upside is just clearly through the roof. It's just one of those where, like, I don't love the prices on like any single bear. They're fine, but they're just never like the best pick on the board amongst all of them, like ever. I never like loved DeAndre Swift. I never love Rome Odunze. I never loved DJ Moore. Even Colston Loveland. These guys are just like never the best pick on the board. Caleb, I like a lot of. I like Caleb. I like the Bears. I just have, it's probably been a flaw of my drafting game this summer. I'm just not forcing more of the Bears. So we're rectifying it. And 1,500 teams or 1,400 teams or something like that. We're rectifying it in like 1485 or whatever. It's a little too late, but we're trying nonetheless. You've got the deepest pitch and the highest pitch dog. Yeah, and they're brothers, like from the same litter, which don't ever do that, by the way. We've learned our lesson from that. There's quite the squabbles they had when they were younger. Not so much anymore. They're older and they mostly just play and such now. But don't do the puppers from the same litter. We had to learn our lesson the hard way over here. I think Judkins just signed by the sounds of the dog pound over there. That's funny. If one of your dogs were to cheat at poker, is there an obvious suspect among the group? So that's such a funny question because, yeah, I think so. But the interesting thing is one of them is a little more casual and lazy and just likes to lounge around pretty much all day, just likes to lounge around. And the other one is kind of a little bit more like they both have lots of energy, but one of them is like a little more chill about it. When he gets his when I have one, his name is Taz and Griffey, named after Ken Griffey Jr. and of course named after the Tasmanian Devil. Taz, when he gets his, like when the energy gets built up, it's just like it's one insane, like I'm gonna go get the zoomies, go absolutely batshit insane for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna lounge the rest of the day. Griffey, on the other hand, is more like kind of all over the place. Always wants to be outside. Doesn't matter the weather. Hot, a foot of snow, in the middle. Just always wants to be outside. Always wants to be doing something. Always wants to be around us. And so you would think it kind of the little bit crazier one. Oh, let's see here. I know Loveland makes sense. Damn it. Yeah, sure. Let's do Loveland. Because I kind of also would like Drake May on this team, but I'm not going to get him now. I'm gonna go ahead and assume one of these three. Yep. See, son of a bitch. But so anyway, one of the dogs, but Taz, my, zoomies or sleep 0 to 100 guy, he always goes and like grabs our towels, grabs like clothes, and like sneaks. He's a little sneaky in that regard. So it would definitely have to be him. Though 98% of the time you would never guess that it was him because he's the like super chill, casual one. I think we'll be, just make sure that Inkles here at the 103 doesn't take my guy. He's clearly going and getting his guys. Jaden Blue in the 10th round. Takes Herbert. Now I'm going to take my 4th and final running back in Dylan Sampson here. I told you he was a priority. So through 11 rounds, we're done at running back. Obviously got some work to do elsewhere, but we started Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, Omarion Hampton through 3 rounds. Yes, that is running back, running back, running back. No, someone did not kidnap me. I'm trying to build some of these, like not a lot. The first 100 of my teams on drafters, whatever, like overwhelmingly 0 hero running back. Like it's like all it was, or our Hawkeye, our famous Hawkeye build and that kind of stuff. The Triple H, I wasn't doing much early running back, like at all. A little bit of Jahmyr Gibbs, and I had a pretty set strategy. And now the market has shifted a lot, so I'm doing a little bit of these, like not a lot, but I'm doing some of these when I think it makes sense. And I'm trying to do it a lot more with Jahmyr Gibbs specifically. But Gibbs, Bucky, Hampton, I did not have that specific trio to start a draft. Then we go DJ Moore. I wanted to try to set up a Bears stack. DJ Moore, Devontae Smith, just one of my guys, and kind of smoothing over some exposures in that 5th round of him with some of the other guys that were on this team already. Chris Olave, Keon Coleman, Darnell Mooney. I'm a pretty big fan of that little wide receiver run there to make this room kind of work, given what I'm going to need from probably 11 or 12 wide receivers on this team. And then we take Caleb Williams and Colston Loveland, finish out the running back room with Dylan Sampson. So we'll just be going to battle with Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, Omarion Hampton, and Dylan Sampson at the running back position. Nah, feels like you still want a 5th running back given. I mean, if I need Sampson during the stretch run when I have Gibbs, Bucky, and Omarion Hampton, then something went terribly wrong. And I also I just don't agree with we know Sampson, like I guess it's true. I do agree. Sampson could lose his role. He also could not. And if I need Kendre Miller on this team because Dylan Sampson isn't the man, then this team wasn't winning. You know what I mean? I already have 3 running backs in the first 3 rounds. I need the big bet was on them, not on Dylan Sampson. Like Sampson is obviously a piece that I like putting on here because I feel good about it, and he's one of my favorite clicks, and I want to get him on all different types of teams. But I don't think you need to draft a 5th guy on this team. Running back is the least of my concerns for this specific team. I'm going to do... Oof. Let's just take Penix here with Mooney, of course. Penix stacked with Mooney. I honestly don't hate it, but of course the running back, I was going to say the running back room is going to need work. That'll be a bad thing if the running back room needs work. But the receiver room obviously does. We need to hit some home runs here. Just looking at some of my exposure. I have obviously done Pat Bryant a little more on these kind of teams. Dante Thornton I like here. And then Tesla would be, I have not done, as you see here, a lot of red, meaning low. Those are low numbers for me. 4% Tesla, and don't have him very much, given only a 4%. You wouldn't expect to have him a ton on these specific teams. So he'll be an option here. But let's do Thornton. Kind of the perfect kind of fit on this team. You get the combination of just the overall rookie upside, which is nice. And he's going to play. He's going to play football for the Vegas Raiders. He's a starting wide receiver on the Las Vegas Raiders. And I kind of need the perfect combination of those two things. I mean, this kind of player is a good fit on any form of best ball team, but on this one specifically, I'm a big fan. Let's move here. Again, if you are just joining, smash that like button. All of that cliche stuff that everybody says on streams, but also starting tomorrow, we're still going to do some drafts and such, but we're going to start to get into the rhythm. Actually, starting this afternoon, we're going to start to get into the rhythm of the season. We're going to have our first Survivor pod. Myself and Rob are going to do some Survivor content this year because we both love that specific format. And God damn, they're growly today. And Griffey, enough. Griffey, hey. The weather's cooling off. They're missing the summer vibes, I guess. It's Miami Dolphins vibes in the room here from the dogs. Not ideal. But get to some Survivor this afternoon. We're going to get into the DFS plays starting tomorrow and some sports betting stuff, etc. Going to do some Battle Royale drafts. And Drafters also has like their version of Battle Royale daily drafts that are a ton of fun. Super flex format, very, very fun, full point PPR. So we're just going to get into a little more in-season stuff and also keep sweating our best ball teams. I assume that they're going to underdog, given the fact that they launched a first quarter, multiple actually tournaments for the first quarter. I'm going to guess that they do a second quarter and a third quarter and a fourth quarter, probably two. And then there'll obviously be playoff best ball, which is, just God's game. One of the most fun formats of all of fantasy sports is playoff best ball. That will come out mid-season and we'll start grinding that as well. So in season is going to be action packed around here, even more so than in past years. So don't go anywhere. If you are here and if you are in DK drafts, just a friendly reminder, because it's easy to miss that there are 10-minute. If you're in slow drafts, there's 10-minute. You're on 10-minute clocks. Don't time out. Don't time out. Let's see. A lot of folks don't understand the theory of drafting and the why you do certain things. Yes, you could draft another running back, but the way you draft it is telling a story that those three running backs will be near. Yeah. The number one, like if there's a golden rule, and there are no such things as rules in this game, right? The only rule is that the answer to every question in best ball is it depends. If you had to answer, you could answer every, right? This guy or that guy, it depends. Draft 3 quarterbacks or 2, it depends. The answer is always, it depends. However, let's take a peek at the wide receiver position, and it has already gotten wiped out here thanks to you guys. This is terrible. So let's go ahead and do Chig then. I'm probably going to take 3 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks, and I'm going to take 3 tight ends. When I do Loveland as my tight end 1, I do like to do 3 on these teams. And hopefully at 189, I should be able to get one of those guys, and then I'll take kind of my pick of the litter here at wide receiver. But like I said, the only real rule in fantasy football to me is that, again, the answer is it depends. But if there was a golden rule that I operate by, it is where you are strong, draft. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. I can't believe I got to pull Malik Washington all the way up to this spot just to start getting some wide receivers I like. Where you are strong, draft less quantity. Where you are weak, draft more quantity, right? Where you have quality, draft less quantity. Where you lack quality, draft more quantity. However we want to say that phrase. That is really like the true golden rule. And I think it's easy to miss that when we're trying to cover every base right? That's the thesis of like draft like you're right. Right? I said that phrase one time, and the props shout out to me, like 5 years ago, legitimately, maybe 4. I go on Establish the Edge with Mike Leone to talk some best ball strategy because I just started Spike Week. I'm streaming every day, doing drafts, talking best ball strategy. Leone is one of the sharpest minds out there. He's deep in the weeds, thinking about different strategies and all that kind of stuff. And I basically just said, like, it seems like far too often we, the royal we, all of us, will draft like we're wrong when we really should be drafting like we're right. And that's it, right? That's the quantity versus quality thing, is just what story have you told with this team? If you spend all of your auction dollars, I just had an auction, home league auction yesterday. If you spend all of your auction dollars on the running back position, you don't need a whole bunch of them. Those dudes better be good, right? I want to be using, honestly, if I'm using Dylan Sampson's score too often, that's bad, because Gibbs, Bucky, and Hampton better be scoring and scoring really well, because they need to be like basically the best early round picks, especially on drafters and total points. I need them to be awesome. So like, I can't shield against your team is going to have like weak spots and it's going to have risk. I can't shield against every area of risk. The running back is my least risky position because I spent my first 3 picks on it. So let's just use those first 3 picks. Like, the more I try to, I know it's going to be like, oh my God, you're going to draft 11 wide receivers. It's like, yeah, because my wide receivers are bad. They're very bad. Yeah. All the tight ends are getting scooped up here. Oh no, I could do Likely on this team. Let's put him in the queue and just see. No, you know what I really do need to do though? I need to take QJ on this team. I would like Likely, but there are other late tight ends. I kind of need. I can't believe I just said I need Quentin Johnson on this team. This is why you don't do this. Because you'll reach the 16th round and you'll say, I think I really need QJ on this team, which is when the thing has just gone totally awry. That's when it's bad. Yeah, this is insane. For Sarasota, I just realized Torrey Horton went at 136 in this room. Since this is nuts. Yeah, Beekert, of course, is who took him. He's our fellow Spike Weeker over here, and he did the pull up, our world famous pull up method. I'm gonna wait on that third tight end, and I'm gonna go get Diami on here because I just need some routes, man. Come run some routes for me, brother, please. Me and Bernie did the same thing, and he executed it far better than I did. But he took some early, right? He took Nico and then JT, Travion, Kittle. So only one wide receiver through 4, Matthew Golden, and then RJ Harvey, right? So he took essentially the same strategy that I did. I just did it like legitimately 3 running backs straight out of the gate. Jawan, I like it. Shaheed, Purdy, nice. Stroud with Nico, nice. And then he just said, which I totally agree with this. Like, I'm a huge fan of this strategy. You got everything is locked down for you, right? He's got his quarterbacks, he's got his stacks, he's got his running backs, and he's got an elite tight end. Go get your guys, right? GYG season. Who cares? If you like Xavier, if you want to have Xavier Legette on the team, just because you took him over Romeo Dobbs or whatever, who gives a shit? Take him. You need him, right? You need Legette. You need Horton upside. You need Io Manor. You need Troy Franklin. So just go get him. Go get him on the team. Hold on. These fucking dogs. 1 second. All right, it's week 1. They know it's week 1. They're going to drive me. Absolutely nuts. Did our guy Tuna get Goddard? Didn't get Goddard. I think that was the right play. This year feels odd in that the biggest draft like your right plays feel like these guys aren't dust. That's a really good point. D. Owen says those are like the best guys to draft. Like if you draft Tyreek Hill, you've on that team, you don't have to. You can draft those guys, and I have. I don't really do Brandon Ayuk, but honestly, I've done like just all those other guys that you're talking about. I could not possibly agree more. That like you just draft these guys and say, well, if CMC stays, damn, Juwan goes getting thin on final wide receivers here. I wonder if I take Coker on this one and pray he's fine. That's what I'm going to do. Obviously going to be missing Jalen Coker for 4 to 6 weeks, but I think it's probably the move here. You had me until Ayuk. I also like. I'm not even sure that Ayuk it fits there, though. I understand what you're saying. That just like, let's just assume he comes back and he's Brandon Ayuk. Then I do think that makes sense. However, I'm not sure he fits quite the mold, but I think it is exactly the exact thesis what you said is so true. That a lot of these, like, okay, if you're going to take these guys, the whole bet you've made is Tyreek is actually still Tyreek, or CMC is peak of his powers. CMC, right? The Dolphins bounce. The Dolphins happen to always seem to be a part of this conversation. The Dolphins are fine. The Dolphins are back to 2 and 3 years ago, not that dog shit we saw last year. I'm sure there's others that I can't think of off the top of my head, but that's it. Yeah. Fields is just still going to drop a couple of 30-point games, and it's not awful, right? Let's see. Okay, now we should be able to scoop a tight end. They just all suck. Speaking of, somebody mentioned the chaperone. The Tyler Higbee chaperone is what we need in this tight end room, I think. Chaperone my Loveland. There's it's got to be like a book or something. Chaperone my Loveland. That's the new next Bond movie. Chaperone my Loveland. Who is the next Bond? Idris Elba? Was that real? Anyway, let's see. That's hilarious. This actually feels like a good Roman Wilson team shoot for that upside. And Shuby says, upside on the 4th passing option on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I get it though. If Roman Wilson actually isn't bad, but that's what Dial says. Why has Roman Wilson been steamed up to 180 on drafters, but still often goes undrafted on underdog? Well, it's a good question. The main thing about drafters is that I think it's the sharpest ADP. It's certainly the sharpest in reacting to news. That's for sure. Look at all these guys. But also the news is specifically more relevant on drafters because week 1 matters so much more. So it's not even just that the drafters people are sharper. It's just that week 1 is much less impactful on, say, underdog or DraftKings. So we don't want to just have week 1 brain and, skyrocket Xavier Legette. I think Xavier Legette should rise in all formats and all sites, but not necessarily to the level that he should on drafters or in the marathon. So I think you see that a little bit. I do think the people and the rooms are sharper on drafters, but also these kind of guys, I don't want to classify as sharper necessarily around Roman Wilson. The drumbeat has been that he's like a starter at wide receiver. So that's part of, again, that's more valuable on drafters than it is necessarily on underdog. I'm not saying that he should go at pick 180. I don't have him ranked at pick 180. So I don't agree necessarily with the market, but if we're like trying to put ourselves in their shoes, that's sort of where it's coming from, I think. And then the news has been that Roman Wilson is probably going to be playing early and often, probably. But yes, as Martin says, the Steelers are going to play 13 personnel. That's the problem for Roman Wilson. That's the problem. All right, one more wide receiver. I should have planned ahead a little bit better. So since I took Coker, I kind of do want one of the, probably another boring route runner here. And you want to know who the most boring route runner of all time is? Zay freaking Jones. Nothing quite says I drafted a robust running back team like closing it out with 11 wide receivers, and it's Zay Jones. But we took Caleb Williams and Michael Penix. Oh my God, I just realized they're double by. Boy, we really made this different from the running back bros, because they would never draft double by at quarterback. Shows you how much I care about it. Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, Omarion Hampton, and Dylan Sampson is our robust room there. DJ Moore, obviously stacked with Caleb, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Keon Coleman, Darnell Mooney. It's our first 5 wide receivers, which I actually, given the fact that we waited so long to draft a wide receiver, I'm okay with that. DJ Moore isn't my absolute favorite, but for this team, DJ Moore makes plenty of sense. Again, stacked with Caleb. Dante, then you'll see the kind of wide receivers. B. Kurt took all the good ones, so I took the discount versions of what B. Kurt would allow me to have. Dante Thornton, Malik Washington, Quentin Johnston, De'Ami Brown. We took the plunge on Jalen Coker, hoping he comes back and is the guy that we were chasing up the boards before the injury after the Adam Thielen trade. Zay Jones, Colston Loveland, Chiga Okonkwo, and Tyler Higbee at tight end. That's a disgusting tight end room. What does that mean? Bro, lock in. What does that mean? I'm probably not young and hip enough to understand. Is that good? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Let's see. Oh, okay. I see. You guys were talking in the chat. I missed it. Coach Gruden loves Roman Wilson. Says he's no doubt wide receiver 2, 4-time state champ in high school and national champion in college. He's just a winner. Aaron will throw him the rock. So, I just don't care about any of that stuff. Like a lot of guys have won national championships. A lot of guys have won state titles. He's just a winner. Well, like that, a lot of guys win games and then come to the NFL and don't win. I think the Roman Wilson bet is a fine bet to make. It's just none of this stuff. I don't care what Coach Gruden thinks. Coach Gruden is not relevant. He doesn't coach the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's that's fine. The wide receiver 2 thing is also a bit of an issue. It's like if I called Zay Jones wide receiver 2. It's like, well, he's a starter, fun fact, and he might outperform Michael Wilson actually this year. Marvin Harrison is wide receiver 1, but Trey McBride exists on this team. So like wide receiver 2 can be very misleading. The wide receiver 2 for a team like Seattle, Torrey Horton might be the wide receiver 2 for Seattle if Cooper Kupp is dust. But they don't throw it to their tight ends, right? So the wide receiver 2 slot that we discuss is more or less valuable on different teams for various different reasons. And on an Arthur Smith team that's traded for Jonnu Smith, that extended Pat Freiermuth, that loves Darnell Washington, that checks down to their running backs a lot, the wide receiver 2 thing and the fact that he will get targets for sure from Aaron Rodgers, but he isn't like, how many targets is that really? They're gonna play really slow. They're going to run the football, and they're going to rely upon their defense. So, like, the bet on Roman Wilson is just that he ends up being really good. Not that he's a winner. You can win games and not score fantasy points. Justin Watson won a lot of games. Justin Watson won several Super Bowls. Justin Watson didn't score very many fantasy points, even though he was on the field. Justin Watson ran like a ton of routes, and he won a lot too, but he didn't score fantasy points. We're concerned with the fantasy points aspect of all of this, and I think the bet is just like Roman Wilson. Last year didn't go so well, but you really liked him as a prospect, really talented player. I was into Roman Wilson as a prospect, so I'm not disputing that there's a reason to draft him, but I think one of the things that can happen really easily is we can fall kind of into a lot of these intangible things, and it's impossible to ignore all of them. We just talked about the Dolphin stuff, right? We all fall subject to different intangible vibes-based stuff, but all like the vibes-based stuff is just so unpredictable, right? This guy won a state championship. This guy came from a good college program. And sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. Alabama's had a bunch of wide receivers who aren't very good. Alabama's had some wide receivers who are absolutely elite. Guys who won state titles and national titles have been good and bad. So being a winner, it absolutely does not correlate to him getting on the field over Calvin Austin. Being a winner does not. It definitely does not. He's a wide receiver. What correlates to him getting on the field over Calvin Austin is him being good at playing wide receiver. The fact that he won 7 years ago in high school is completely irrelevant to whether he gets on the field over Calvin Austin. Let's see. Shout out Danny Green, greatest NBA player of my generation. All he does is win. Notably, Robert Horry scored a lot of fantasy points, right? Robert Horry scored a lot of fantasy points? Nope. No, sir. No, he did not. Let's see. Exactly. Draft against streamers when they are ripping DK drafts with 10 minutes. Like I almost just forgot just now. I'm just so happy that you posted this comment because I completely even forgot that I'm on the clock right now in multiple drafts right now. A little bit behind, but the Travis Hunter piece, to me, he was clearly overpriced at the 4-5 turn, but late 60s, I took a few shots. I think 4-5 turn was close to appropriate, but what I would say is he was going ahead of guys he should not have been going ahead of. I have him ranked in the early 50s, but I always had a bunch of guys who went behind him ahead of him. If that makes sense. So you could argue with that, my ranking, and I agree with this logic, but not necessarily just because the price, it was who he was going ahead of at the old price, I think was bad. But now, or at least for a while, and certainly now, there's probably guys that go ahead of him that shouldn't go ahead of him now. So it's sort of flip-flopped a little bit, and I agree. I don't have a ton of Travis Hunter, but he is one of those. I kind of have just taken my medicine a little bit on Travis Hunter and moved on to the next. Any surprises we might get last minute with official depth charts dropping this week? As Versaire says, it don't really care too much about the depth charts, but in terms of like not like a team drops the depth chart and we get a surprise, but like how the teams actually would, like how the depth chart would work in a game. It's definitely the Washington backfield. I think if Chris Rodriguez gets the first carry, I think everyone will melt down. If Bill's inactive, people will melt down. The Jaguars, I think people should not be, but they will be very shocked when Bashal Tutin is inactive for week 1. I would put that at a coin. Let's call it a coin flip. Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby are going to be active for sure for week 1, and Liam Cohen has talked about his love for LaQuint Allen just as much as Bashal Tutin, and he's specifically called out the fact that like they are going to have to basically make a tough decision on they all can't be active. LaQuint Allen does some things that now Tootin does some things that Allen can't do, but the same is also true in reverse. So I'm not sure who's the better special teams player, or if either of them can play special teams. I would assume if you're at the back end of the roster, you're playing some special teams. But I would say Tootin, Bill. Let's think. Let me think, because it's a good question. The chart so I drafted Quinton Johnston. I think the Chargers receiver room could shake up some things. I would still suspect that Quinn Johnston is the starter, and I would still suspect that Keenan Allen, plays the Keenan Allen bullshit role. But there was also a question about, I apologize who asked, and I missed it, about Keandre Lambert-Smith. And I think that it's absolutely possible that Keandre Lambert-Smith plays a very real role. Like Trey Harris has been banged up, and Keenan is just kind of Keenan at this point. And then QJ having missed a couple of weeks with the concussion, did KLS earn his way into a real week 1 role? I doubt it, but it's also not impossible. So I wouldn't be super shocked if that happened. So yeah, Michelle, has the shine worn off on KLS? I don't hear much about him anymore. I think we just haven't, how we operate. We chase our tails in the best ball streets. Whoever is the shiny new toy, we are obsessed with that guy. We move on to the next shiny new toy. It's the Family Guy scene with Peter, and he's chasing the trail of, ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. That's what we do with whatever is the new sexy name to draft. And KLS isn't currently the new sexy name, but I think he's a perfectly solid late round click. He's not my absolute favorite, but I think he still definitely makes for a pretty good one. Time to make slow draft picks. Hooray. Rashad Bateman, come on down. I can't think of any other depth chart. I guess I would assume everybody's going to think Hunter Renfrow steps into the Adam Thielen / Jalen Coker role, but they cut Hunter Renfrow, and I think folks like Jimmy Horn, Anaya Smith are probably going to play over him. One would think that the fact that they cut Hunter Renfrow, and they talked about basically it wasn't very good in camp for Hunter Renfrow. That's why they cut him. So I think Jimmy Horn or Anaya Smith step into the Jalen Coker / Adam Thielen void, and not Hunter Renfrow. Troy Franklin or Pat Bryant for best ball. I slightly prefer Troy Franklin, though I think that they're both good bets. I've been drafting both right now, but I think Troy Franklin, the last thing we saw from the Denver Broncos without Devon Vele, the only thing we saw the Denver Broncos without Devon Vele was Troy Franklin running with the starters. It was Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and Troy Franklin in 3 wide receiver sets, and Pat Bryant as the backup. Now, that's like a very week 1 brainish type activity, where that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's happening all season. Certainly doesn't mean that's what's happening all, by the time we get to week 17. Pat Bryant is a pretty exciting young rookie 3rd round pick. And just recently, Sean Payton talked him up quite a bit. He was asked about his passing game. And the 3 names he mentioned were Courtland Sutton, Pat Bryant, and Troy Franklin, in that order, where that was how he talked about the passing game. So it's totally out of context. That doesn't mean anything. Sean Payton says a lot of shit, and he does not necessarily tell us. It's not that he doesn't tell us the truth. He just talks a lot like me. We're very similar, right? Talking about the ranting and rambling. Sean Payton loves to talk about his players, just like I love to talk about best ball and fantasy football. But I think I still think Troy Franklin, because I also really like Troy Franklin as a prospect. I know he went in the 4th round, but he was awesome at Oregon. And last year was really disappointing as a Troy Franklin truther. But I think we might get a second chance here this year. What's more likely? Joe Flacco over Flacco over 6.5. What's more likely? Joe Flacco plays over 6.5 games, starts over 6.5 games, or Shador under 2.5. Shador, as it stands, again, these things can change. It doesn't mean this is how it will be all season. Shador's QB3, not QB2. Obviously, they traded Kenny Pickett to the Raiders, and Joe Flacco is QB1, but Dylan Gabriel is QB2. He operated that way in the preseason, and that's what they're telling us. Are they lying? Would they start Shador if Joe Flacco got hurt? Or will they start Shador? Will they give them both a chance when they're out of the race? If they're out of the race, I don't know. But I think Shador is not the backup quarterback right now. Let's see. I'll definitely be back tomorrow morning for sure, and Thursday morning and Friday morning. Friday morning we'll be doing more like week 1 prep, of course, and talking about the Thursday night game in which the Eagles kicked the living shit out of the Cowboys. But I am going to be back every single day. We got lots of week 1 we still got some more teams to draft, first of all, and then we got lots more work to do for week 1. So we'll definitely be back the rest of this week. I assume Hunter won't play much defense after he misses a game with injury. That's my general concern, not necessarily like specifically that, but that is like my general concern, that injuries, right? And then what does that mean? Does he only play defense then? Does he only play offense then? Do they scale him back on both sides and now he's really fucking useless to us, where he's like scaled back a little bit on defense and scaled back on offense? Because there's just so many ways that this thing can play out. And the biggest roadblock to me from Travis Hunter for our perspective, from a fantasy football sense, is injury. Not are they going to play him, not do they want to play him on both sides of the football, not can he do it from a conditioning perspective, but what happens over the course of the season, taking that many hits and also, delivering hits, and just the toll that has on his body. Oh God, Kai's getting deep in the bag on the depth chart stuff. I hope it's wild, like Jaleel McLaughlin gets a bunch of carries in Denver. Fuck you for saying that. That is not what I hope, given the amount of RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins I have drafted. That would be disastrous for me. It would only be week 1, et cetera, et cetera. But no, don't even put that out there. Oh God. Scary thought, Josh Reynolds is his team's wide receiver 1 with only 1 injury. Ain't that the truth? How many tournaments in total will you be maxing in best ball this year? The total maxing the drafters main event that we just drafted, the DraftKings Millie Maker, and Best Ball Mania, and then the first quarter contest, which is only a 50 max. And I think that's it. Now, I'm going to have drafted just shy of 1,500 total teams by the time we get to Thursday. But in terms of like maxing out the contests, I will only be a few. I've kind of poked and prodded across a bunch of different tournaments. Yes, yeah. The third quarterback is your emergency quarterback. Yep. Tyquan Thornton touchdown prop every week until it hits. See, this is why we're so back, dude. This is why I'm so excited for week 1. Is this, and I'm not kidding. Like, I'm betting Will Shipley to score a touchdown on Thursday. I'm gonna play Will Shipley in Showdown, betting on some of our guys, Tyquan and Troy Franklin. Who else? I'm missing. Got Xavier Legette, Dylan Sampson, like betting on those guys to score touchdowns and on their props and everything. Dude, it's just the best. It's the first part. it can be doubly painful if we drafted a bunch of them and then we bet on them in week 1 and they suck. But it is a ton of just, there's nothing like it when the season gets here and we get to put the cojones on the table just one more time in week 1. Speaking of drafting like you're right, I dropped Ray Davis for C-Rod as if he gets the first carry, he'll be the. I agree. I am in managed leagues. I was going to say if I were in managed leagues, and of course I'm in fucking managed leagues. I just said I did an auction draft yesterday. But what I would straight up be doing is adding Chris Rodriguez to every managed league team. If he's inactive or if it is just Bill's backfield, you just cut him. But if like you said, if he gets the first carry, everybody's rushing to the waiver wire to pick him up. He's the number one waiver, right? Everybody's writing their waiver wire articles on Sunday night and being like, here's how much fab you should spend on Chris Rodriguez. Like, why don't you get it out ahead of that? Because there's not really any other situations like that. The Cowboys, but I think we kind of know what the Cowboys situation is going to be. That is, I just don't know. I think it's negligence to not have Chris Rodriguez on. Now, if you like drafted really running back heavy or something, whatever. But it's like, even as an asset, you can cut the guy on Sunday if it doesn't go well, or like there's really only those two outcomes. Either he's useful and valuable, at least as an asset, or you just cut him, move on to the next. It's fine. Drafted more or less teams than last year, just a sliver less. Pretty close, but just a sliver less. I found my where the rubber meets the road for me in drafts is apparently somewhere in that 1,500 range. I don't think that my body can handle much more than that. I'm down to hit some more of you guys' questions while I make my last few DraftKings picks over here, because we are tilting our faces off about the 10-minute clocks. Oh, nothing like your auto pick would be Kendre Miller. Getting on the clock and your auto would be Kendre Miller means also start the goddamn games. That's what that means. Ooh, Shipley. That's fun. All right. Oh yeah, Dave. Now we're talking. I think you're going to be, well, you'll just get your money back if he's inactive. I think might be inactive for week 1, but I love it. I love it. 10-man full PPR, JMO, Hampton, and JSN, BTJ, Pacheco. Ooh, you have seen. Oh God, it's always so hard to read all these. I would prefer, because I don't really care about Pacheco and Caleb Johnson at all, Jameson Williams, Amari, and Hampton, and JSN. For sure. How much fab on Judkins? Ooh, keeper league. That's a great question. I'm not the right person to ask that one. I don't have a great take on Quinshon Judkins. Like, you want to talk about a roster clogger, but it's keeper, so I get that part of it for sure. And I assume you keep him for like a last round pick or something if you add him off waivers. But I wouldn't spend too much. Jerry is burnt out. Brother, with you. Russ or Dart? Russ for me. I think that they're both fine. I think that they're both fine. Dart looked very good in the preseason. I agree. Russ also looked good in the preseason. He just played less because he's the starter. Like I said, I think that they're both fine. I think the most likely scenario is Dart eventually takes over later in the season. But I also think it's interesting to, especially on a site like Drafters or in the marathon or something, where, the full season matters, to make a bet on the Giants around Russ. I actually did that this morning. I drafted a Drafters main event this morning where I took Neighbors and Tracy. And I think I got Theo Johnson on that team too. Anyway, and I drafted Russ late. And it's like, I think the most likely scenario is Russ is benched in, whatever, week 8 or something like that. But also, like, what if they win some of these games? We all think the Cowboys kind of stink. What if they upset a couple teams? What if they beat Washington? What if they're in the playoff hunt? Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Dion's. Josh Norris tweeted 10 minutes ago. The Canal said in an interview with Panther Talk that Renfrow is the slot receiver. That's good to know. Just depends on your build in terms of Russ or Dart, says Lil Dodger. I agree. If you're like in need of if you're in need of early running back points, I don't suggest Russ or Dart. If you're in need of early quarterback points, definitely on the Russ side. If you're like in need of strictly late season upside, you have some boring ass. You have your Matthew Stafford or whatever, which I don't recommend, but you get the point. If like Tua or whatever, then I would take Dart for sure. Mahomes, the old dollar parlays. I have a good buddy who often comes over and watches the games on Sunday. We co-manage some teams. We actually co-manage the auction league that we did yesterday and like some main events and stuff. And every goddamn Sunday always has like the dollar, like first touchdown parlays. And it tilts me to no end because it's just obviously like touchdown parlays are one thing. The first touchdown parlays, but they're certainly a very fun sweat. I'm ready for all of it. Dart over 4.5. That's nice. You're going to be really frustrated when the Giants start out like 4-2, but I agree. That was a solid bet. All right, we're going to get out of here. Reminder to use code SPIKERELOAD20 on Drafters to get your final drafts in. You can get a 20% deposit bonus. That's for existing customers, right? If you have not played yet on Drafters, you want to hop into this overlay. They got to fill about 40,000 seats in 2 days, which is not going to happen, by the way. You can use code SPIKE for a 100% deposit bonus. We will be back tomorrow. Actually, the Best Ball Basement is back this afternoon. We're going to have a special show with Rob and myself, recapping his marathon draft stream, recapping our draft summers, the things that we're worried about, the things that we're excited about. What are our hottest takes for things that happen over the course of the best ball season? We're going to do that this afternoon. Be on the lookout for that link. If you hit the subscribe button, you'll get notified when the new shows are posted. But I'll see you guys this afternoon. We're almost back, baby. I'm so excited, and I'm so excited to be doing a lot more in-season style content for you guys here on the channel. So again, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with DFS stuff and betting stuff and all of the fun in-season stuff here, as well as our normal best ball content here at Spike Week. But I'll see you guys this afternoon, and of course tomorrow as well. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.